Okay, let's see if we can do this. Can anybody see my hand? You see my hand? You see that mark there, the blue mark? Because I had pen. I'm going to follow those lines and show you what's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to go exactly on the line. And this is what you see. That's the line on my hand. Now, if I just do the other line on my hand that goes straight across, right? That's what you get. Those are the lines on my hand. Now watch what happens when I fold my hand. You see, it folds right on the line. Now look what happens to the 5. You see what happens? That's 2 worlds. And then you close it. And now you see the separated world. You see the way the line comes towards the other line? They touch. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like when they come completely together. This is what you end up getting. The all-seeing eye split in half. One side where the fingers are, and then the other side, it's a part of the hand that's there. You can hold things in between it, but it really doesn't see much better than see the action of the eye. I was watching Ron Paul, and the guy's amazing. If he doesn't win, all I wanted to do was cry. I'm listening to Ron Paul, and all I want to do is cry. All my life, I have been trapped inside my own mind. The only thing I ever thought of was death, and one of the reasons for that is because I felt, even at a young age of 8 and 9 years old, that my liberties were taken away from me. And one of the things that shocked me into this was all the starving people I used to see on TV. And one night, my parents, every Sunday, we used to go to my grandparents up in the country back in the 60s and 70s. And on the way home one night, we get stopped for speeding. We're 6 people in the car. We weren't speeding at all. The cop pulls us over. My father was driving a blue Oldsmobile. And my father says to the officer, he says, "What was I doing?" He says, "You were speeding." And my father was mad. He says, "I wasn't speeding. How fast did you catch me?" He says, the officer outside, he says, "Iji ekut. Iji ton Cadillac lo irol." He said to him, "Your Cadillac runs fast." And we only had a GM, a blue Oldsmobile with a bunch of kids. So even back then in the 70s, it had begun. How are we going to stop this? Okay, and it's the children of today that are going to schools, that are going to be our workers in the public, that are going to be the public servants, obviously based on their will and wants. And they're going to be our policemen, our officers, our firemen, and it's you. It's not me. I'm 50 years old. I'm done. I'm fried. I'm out. My only token to this world right now is to make sure everybody gets treated, okay, to the true libertarian way. And Ron Paul said it's not an obligation. Okay, no, liberty is not an obligation, but you have an obligation, okay, to make sure that liberty stays liberty for everybody. Because most of the time in liberty, the minute too many things go wrong, they just create a new law. Well, what laws do we have to create? If you're going to ruin the liberty for others, we're going to put you away. Why do we have to add any more laws? I mean, you're not, like I said before, he says you can have your own, a couple of plants of marijuana, and one of the things I listen to. But if you're going to grow a whole bush of marijuana, okay, the first effect is you're going to have other gangs coming up and stealing it from you because they want it for free. So when you think you're doing a great thing, this is why they bring in these army policemen to knock this down, because everybody wants what you have. It's not that what you have is so bad. It's just there's people in this world that, you know, the money is a lot stronger. I think that growing your own, they'll save a lot of money, at least 1 million people out of jail. I want to know what happens with the people that went to jail for smoking a big joint and the officers weren't nice to them. How can we clean up the prisons and get rid of half these the Oreo cookies that are in prison. And Oreo cookies. I like to know what the big thing is. How many actual white men are in jail in America compared to Hispanic and black people? And at what age and for what reason? It's got to be a weird, fucked up number. Yeah, I said fucked up, not F-U-C-K. Okay? You can hear me say one word, but it's fuck to you. It's fuck to you. Okay? If you want to know what that terminology means, you have to think about it, okay? Because the reason I mention it is because when I said it, I had thought of something, because the word actually doesn't let you think. It sort of stymies you within. Okay, so let's get off to Ron Paul. Yeah, so I want to know what does he think about welfare? I mean, if you're a working person right now, right? I mean, I'm just always going to throw something out, and I haven't even studied this yet. This is how I do it. I learn. I'll make my mistakes. This is going to be a cassette full of mistakes, all right? Is that okay? Um, like, what do we do? We have 10% on welfare now. Let's say they're going to be on welfare forever. Now, if you're going to have a child, you have to prepare for your child that when they go to school, you have money for them to go to school. You're the father. And in some families, if they can't afford it, the grandfather's in the back room. Like the Simpsons, basically the way the Simpsons family is set up, with the grandfather there. So I guess that would be the grandfather law, right? The grandfather helped you. He was the father. He was the son. He was the child. He was the birth. He was a nothing. He had parents, but he wasn't alive. So we can look at it that way, but then we always got our parents on our ass in the same. Well, if you live on a farm, it's not that hard to bring in and make your own everything and grow your own everything. And do we pay taxes? The question is, we own a farm. Do we pay taxes? Well, certain taxes have to be paid. I don't know the terminology that you want to use on a tax, but we're just going to say that word. So 10% unemployment and 10% that are on welfare, and we're always going to have 10% on unemployment. We'll always have 10% on welfare. That's the way it is. There's not always going to be jobs for everybody. Like I said in another video, some of these people on welfare can come out and do 20 hours. And then again, if they need a little extra cash, they're allowed to make $300-400 a month or $200 a month, which is way too low. They let the welfare people only get $200 a month. They're getting $500. They're allowed another $2 before they get knocked off. It's insane. Although they get the doctor, the way I see it basically goes like this. First of all big business, whatever business it is that's in our town, that's giving us employment, regardless. If Walmart was out of your town, what would happen? Where would all these people go to spend their money? Which way should money be actually in a non-forceful way be spent? And they all threaten we'll leave. You know, eventually let everybody threaten, let everybody leave, and then when we see the true people who want to stay in our town and put up businesses, we'll deal with them. We don't want to deal with anybody who's going to say, hey, if you don't do this and you don't do that. No, it's not all about money. It's about the people. You know what I'm saying? Fence off a town, one town. Make that town self-sufficient in everything, and they don't need you under any crisis. Once they get a certain thing under their belt, okay, their food basically, because it's not hard to build a house. You just got to continuously be able to feed your face. If all your cows die, you know, so they're always going to have something within their town that can be used to buy something out of the town. It's 141, 7, 4, 12. Oh my God, it happened last night and it's happening now. 1 for 1 is an exchange. It's 1 on the left for 1 on the right, which actually creates the M or the W, whichever way you want to turn it. If you turn it on its side, the M or the W, it becomes a sigma. Okay, in the Greek language, it's the 18th. It's comparable to the R. The sigma is the spirit I birth, love, gates, angel. It's a fucked up word because it comes from the other world, upside down. Every time I have to talk about that upside down world, it's sort of a little bit hard to explain it because, like I said, 1 for 1 means 1 from one side is comparable to the 1 on the other side. Although on one side of the 5 on your telephone, it's a 4. On the other side of that 5 on the telephone, it's a 6. They're actually the same thing. They both have to be counted as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it works. I didn't make it up. You guys did. I learned the in-between of creation of what everybody else did. That's why I can do whatever I do. Because I can make 1,000 mistakes, but I know I'm going to get something right. And then I'm going to find a meaning for it, and a meaningful meaning that carries on a definition that can explain it from more than one side, that what I have chosen actually is the center focal point and meaning of whatever is around it. What else is there? There's always something to do, something to say. Ron Paul, let me think. This is like my Mickey Mouse. You like my Mickey Mouse hat? You turn it upside down. I gotta make this camera. I don't know why the camera's like, I feel like it's sticking right up my face. Oh no, now that would be up my face. Hey, holy crap. Oh my God. No, that's too much. How do you back that camera up? Whoa! Whoa! Oh, where are you? Hey, where'd you go? Where'd he go? Hey! Oh, there he is. You know why I had to put on my glasses? Because they say the object in the mirror may be closer than it appears. Let me see. Whoa! Ah, I guess the company is right. You like that? Ah, come on. I got to put this camera up a little bit. There you go. 2 8s, 6, 8, 8. 8, 6, 8. 8 times 8 is 64. 64 by 6 is 384, the Hebrew leap year. From 364 days, you know what I'm counting? 364 days is a real year of 52 weeks of 7 days, and then we have the after day. Okay, so the Hebrew apparently calendar is 364 days, and then every so often I think they add on 21 days for the leap year. 8, 8 and is 16, and 6 equals 22, which is life. Okay, if you turn all of these together, this 6 actually becomes like this. And now you got 80, 80. Okay, or we used to be, when it was longer, I cut it in half, but that would be 3 8s. It's supposed to be 3 8s, but my cat bit off the end, so I can't make 888 out of it. Anyway, so much for that, right? We did do the thing on Ron Paul. The only reason I'm still sitting here, I know I'm not teaching you much, but that's okay. I don't always have to come here and try to teach everything and force everybody on what I have to say. But Ron Paul really surprised me today because he backed himself up, and I had a question for him, and he backed it up with a logical answer. Anyways, let me get back to this Canadian Quebec thing. There's 6 million people here. If 10% are on welfare and 10% are on unemployment, well, obviously we pay into the unemployment, so it must always be able to pay us back, and it should never fall into a deficit. And neither with the welfare. It should be 10%. We always should have a little bit more because we're always taking care. You're taking care of a child. Well, guess what? We're all children of the world. Some of us didn't make it. Some of our parents weren't as rich. Some of our parents died too early. Some of us aren't as lucky as me, I guess. I'm a lucky guy. Okay. And what more can I say? That's the way it is. So you take all these businesses and you got to get the money from somewhere. The money's going to come out of our pocket. So if the big business takes too much profit and spreads around millions and millions and billions amongst themselves, that money actually will never get reused because it's reused in their system from their big businesses. You know what I'm saying? And they're constantly knocking the market and knowing what the market's going to do. So they'll never be able to exhaust this money. This money has to be put back. These people, I don't care, they have big business. It's got to go back into the system if the system's going to work. That's the only way. You cannot keep taking off the top because eventually you will not have anything on the top and you'll be going down to the bottom. It's just like a crock pot. You put water in a crock pot, you turn it on, it steams and it steams and it saves and it reuses its water. But if you take the same water and take the top off and let it go, eventually it'll boil till it all steams out. over time. Some of the steam will go up and away, and some will turn back down. Eventually, it burns in the bottom of the pan. So you can't run that way. You have to run a system where there's always a positive in the system. And eventually, after the positive is high enough, well, you use the money for something for all what the people decide. Or maybe we have to save up for whatever it is. Now we need protection. We need to take taxes to pay the police people off. We have the roads. I mean, I think the cars and the gasoline should actually pay for the roads, however you want to pay them. But whatever it was, like I said, 6 million people, 600,000, 1.2 million that are collecting something off of what they paid into. Because we should always be paying into welfare, whether we're on welfare or not, because you never know when it's going to strike. So anyways, if we take in Quebec, 600,000 people on welfare at, let's say, $1,000 each a week, okay, no, 1,000 a week, 1,000 a month, 12,000 would be 12 by 6 is 72. Is that 7.2 billion or 720 million? Let me take a look on the calculator over here. I usually don't do this, but I want to get it right. 600,000 times and 600,000 times 12,000 equals 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then you got thousands, million, 200, $7.2 billion. That's a lot of money. $7.2 billion. Is that right? I'm gonna have to check that again. $12,000 to 600,000 people. Let's try that again. Doesn't sound right. That times 600,000, 600, 1, 2, 3, 600,000, 1, 2, 3, hundreds, 1, 2, 3 thousands, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 7.2 billion. So now you got to figure out where is all that money going to come from. That's what it's going to cost to take care of them. Plus, okay, they also get medical, and some of them are also included in all that thousand that I'm talking about is the disability and the extras they get in the program for each person. And don't forget, they have to pay the people in these offices to make checks to these people. So this is the checks that they're getting. So let's say that's about 10 billion people. So now what I have to work on in Quebec, what it costs, and actually, if you really want to take a look at all this money, even if it is 10 billion, it's all getting shoved right back into this society, this money. They have to pay rent, they have to buy food, they're going to the doctors here. All this money is spent right here at home. So therefore, it's being pumped right back into the system. Coming from us, put back into our system, giving jobs for others to pay for some who don't have a job or anything else in their life. It's not always their fault. Now, some have come here, you've been on welfare, you're a welfare recipient. Let me tell you one thing, I've been on welfare, I know how the system works, okay? And for a kind of guy like me, I'm trying to question myself, can I really get out there and get a real job? I seem to not be exactly treated fairly at the one I'm at. I am treated fairly, but there's a sign in which, you know what, if I don't get the feeling of it, then the whole tactic of even being at the job doesn't feel as good. You know, when you don't feel sort of welcome, but you're there, it's not too enthusiastic to stay there. You know, I love being able to get in, okay, what can we do next? You know what? There's a chance I have an idea. That's what everybody's afraid of. My brother, too. He says, oh, no. He says, don't tell me you have an idea. How'd you know? How'd you know? So what do we do about that? So 7.2 billion. And I'd probably say half of that, right, 3 billion of it is getting pumped right back into the housing and apartments for rent because people are renting, right? Or it's a little bit less than that because you're a couple and you're both on welfare. $550 each. Okay, I think it's $550 and $450 for the second one. $1,100. So you still got to pay $500 for the apartment. You got to have a car for $200 at least Come on, look at these people. We're running ourselves down. We're not even really giving anybody a chance to get up on their feet anymore. Secondly, maybe if there were less taxes and we didn't owe as much money, maybe the taxes on certain things will come down, giving people more money. Although some people will pump it into the casinos and pump it into alcohol, and other people will pump it into smoking pot, and everybody's going to pump it in somewhere. So you know what? That's the way we do it. That's the way life goes, and because it goes that way, that's the way the system should be. The system should be, okay, living in a libertarian world in which all laws are garnered by the Creator, meaning that they are all physically, mentally, logical reasons for being a law of any side for the people. All laws, it shouldn't be against the people. The laws should be for the benefit of the people. So when a government brings in a law and they do not have a vote of any sort, then it's not for the people. And 50% means you can't move. And 60%, there is no spirit. Unless you reach 67%, you cannot make a move. 67%, the same reason the Spirit of God, okay, or the freedom or the independence or the Liberty Bell of 1976 or in Montreal in 1967 is because it stands. Those are the numbers. 7 and 6 is it. 6, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. That's the way they see it. Odd and even. Well, it's not actually odd and even, because bringing the 11 down to a single digit equals 2. So that becomes even again. And 10, instead of it being even, it becomes odd. So it's very funny that when you actually do write this down, you'll start to see a completely different pattern starting to emerge. And also it will explain why September happens to be one of the odd number months that has 30 days instead of having it to be 2, 4, 6, 8 August with 30 days. Because you have to come to the birth in through the 8 worlds. And it has to be created by the God. Okay, the beta world needs the one spirit 31 days in it. Okay, because God is the Spirit. Okay, He has the 31 days. When you see 31 days at the end of the month, it's beta creation. You can either say it's 31 days, or you can reverse it to a 10-10, and a 10-10 is actually 79, and that's the maximum amount of dots you can get on any dice. So I haven't really checked out the card, and one of the reasons for that is because there's a space here, no space in the center, right? But if I turn the dice, okay, there's a dot here and a dot here. When I had the dice this way, the dots weren't here. When I turn it back, they go here. Okay, so you only can have 7 and 9 because you'll have the center dot. That's the only one you'll get on the dice is the center dot. When you do it on the cards, it's the same thing. If I would put a dot on every single place of this, the only thing I'm going to get is this. That's it. This is the belt. Sans sir. This is what pulls you together. These two sides are, you see, this is man, right? And the woman, you have to take away those 2 dots because she's got the her hips. Okay? Just like the heart is actually a representation of the man's broad shoulders and the woman's curvatures. Anybody out there actually know the curve, the nice size of a perfect body that they say? Because I want to check that out. What else was I talking about? We were talking about Ron Paul, and I'm basically on here and staying on here, and I still want to make sure that if you don't like me and you don't like Ron Paul, if you like me and you don't like Ron Paul, you must tell me, because I think that I'm right down the path where liberty is. Because if I don't know what it is, somebody teach me right now. I want to know what it is for the world, what liberty is. I want to know if I'm going to join the gang, what everybody else thinks, but besides myself. I can think any way I wish, but am I thinking the right way? I need a little guidance. Anybody want to guide me? Don't need a guidance counselor. I don't need anybody to teach me how to do something. I don't need somebody to give me another sort of path. I already know the path I want. I'm the kind of guy, I want to go up north. If I see a boat, I want to tell the guy, here's 20 bucks. Let me go on into the lake. Let me go out to the island. Let me lie back on my boat. Okay? Hopefully the fish don't jump in. I smoke a little joint, take out a beer, and I don't drink. Okay? And drink some of the water out of the lake. Obviously, I'm going to take some, put it in a bottle, and take it home. Bring it to the Secret Service and tell them I drank lake water. Holy crap, what they're changing this world into right now. Like I said earlier on, when I was very, very young and throughout time, I felt squeezed by this society. I didn't know why. I had a vision within. 25, 30 years later, I start to see why. Ron Paul, I've never really seen him. In fact, I've never seen him before 3 months ago. And I am once you hear a guy like that, for a guy like me who's got nothing, I'm on the bandwagon, although he's not completely for the state I am in. He is a doctor, and he knows that things have to be mended on all sectors. So we did have that expense of $7 billion, which is actually $10 billion on welfare here in Quebec. I'm going to check up those numbers and see if my estimate, based on easy reality, I guess, reality TV, it's all in your mind, my friends. Did you know that if you take a number 5 and the number 2, okay, or just hold up a 5 and a 2, on one side it'll look like a 5, on the other side it'll look like the 2. And what happens is, you know what happens in the dollar? You have these 2 lines, okay? Well, the reason you have these 2 lines, okay, it's almost like 2 discs. I don't know if I have a disc on me. You know, depending on how you want to set them up, you can set them up anyway. You have 5 fingers, right? You can only get 3 discs in, but there's only 1 in the middle, right here. Now, when they talk about the W, the reason for the W is because of this on the discs. They all come together. Do you see? It creates the W, or the shin, but it doesn't come together that way. It comes together. Hold on, I'll try and show you. It comes together almost in this fashion. Okay? And they're turning. This one is 147. This one is 369. What we have to do now is take these and put 1 here and 1 here, and then get all these discs, and then they turn like this. So now what you have is you have a center world, which is transferring your energy from into this side and this side, because this side in the center is gone. It has no value and no worth. It's a person, place, or thing, right? That is a value. Person, place, or thing is a value. This only has a connection value between the left and the right. What you have is the center. And that's why, I mean, everything to do with computers, it's us. This is, I mean, what am I supposed to say? How can I convince you? I don't have to convince you. This is just like a whole game I'm doing here. I'm MrTacpans, and I'm out here to just push and pull and learn and take within, to learn within my own mind. And all I want to try and see if I can show you the way I envision what this is. So this is the diskette, okay, D, and the Betamax world is represented by the B and the R. Because the B and the R, if you ever take a look at the B and sit it down on its ass this way, it really looks like 2 reels going around like this. But if you take 2 R's and you put them together like this, look, again, you'll see the Betamax going around. The B, R, and Q, they almost, and P almost have the same thing in familiarity to each other. Was there anything else I want to say? Did I ever say anything about Ron Paul? Went for supper with my family tonight. I don't know if I said this, but one of my friends said, did you see what Obama did? You see what Obama's doing? And the minute I wanted to say something, it was like, you don't know what you're talking about. So I had to shut up. So I shut up. I said, you know Ron Paul? Oh, that guy's no good. He should go home. Why would they why wouldn't they exchange and want to see what somebody else sees? Aren't we here so we can evolve? Or they're not interested. So when you're not interested, you're not interested. But when it's something so strong and big as an election where 350 American million people are going to be out to vote, well, not the children and the whoever doesn't vote, but shouldn't sometime, because I would never get into this, but now I think, you know what, and it's sad because if Ron Paul doesn't make it, no one should vote. No one should vote. I think everybody should gather together if he doesn't make it, and I don't know what. Prepare for disaster. Prepare for disaster. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. Anyways, we were talking about number 76. Spirit of 76. What was I talking about? I don't remember. Number 13. There is no really 13 because the queen is not real. In God's world, the mother is not real. We're just angels. We're no sex. When we go into another world, we get a sex. That way we get to take part in something. I mean, what are you going to do? Become a rock? You need to be sexed if you're a rock. You need to be sexed if you're a tree, a flower. Yes. But being a rock? What other things don't need sexes? Angels in heaven. What do we do without sex in heaven? Do we need to create more angels? We had a hard time with everybody that says, "Ah, you're an angel." Some angel. I don't think angels are really allowed to live on this planet. You know why? Be way too good. We'd have nothing to do. Otherwise than that, and that said, watch a couple of videos on Ron Paul. One of them was for an hour at Delaware. Every single time you see Ron Paul, the banners are out. You know, I really don't get it. You know why? I'm going to give you my survey of the week of my, let me call it the straw poll of, I'm guessing, 830 over 1,500, which is, what percentage would that be? 60 something percent. Button likes and dislikes. Right now we're at 67% on for, then against. Obviously, this is the only way I read my numbers. I'm not here to explain the numbers. Just Ron Paul in one is at 60, and on the other side, he's closer to 68%. So let's say he's an average of 64%. That's pretty good, I think, for the people who watch me. And that's about it. How many views did I have? Watch the rest of my videos. Raphael 7286. Have a good night, my friends. Let us stand up no matter who wins. We will always be united. And anyways, for the next 30 years, I should be here. And after that, I'll probably be dead. But don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If I'm dead and this shit is going on, believe you me, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. If this shit is going on and Ron Paul doesn't come in, I'm obliged to come back into life again. I have to be reborn again into this bullshit world, all because if Ron Paul does not make presidency. So I have 30 more years to figure out what I'm going to do when I come back next time. Anyways, for now, sorry that I swore. I do it purposely. I try to put a little entertainment into what I do. I do know that I'm not constantly throwing over to you nualities all the time. I am trying my best to do what I can. I am not a professional in any sort. Do I ever do guesses? 90% of the time, if not 100% of the time, every time I take a guess, I try to let you know that it's a guess, if you want to look at it that way. Hypothesis, if you want to think it that way. I guess what is an hypothesis? When Einstein said the Big Bang, this is the way it happened, and it became public based on a hypothesis. And most of the stuff I do show everybody is more than a hypothesis because it's in your house. It is where you are. For now, I am Raphael 76, and I'm going to stop this at 34:25. 4